Good evening. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Elizabeth Rios Brooks. My pronouns are she, ella, they, and I work at Oregon Housing and Community Service as a communications coordinator. And I'd like to welcome all of you to our new series of Facebook Live events to support homeowners worried about foreclosure. So every other week or every 2 weeks, we'll be co-hosting Facebook Lives with nonprofits that support homeowners so we can help you get on the path to stay in your homes. And I would now like to introduce you to today's lovely co-host, Nicole Olivas Leiva.
Hello, thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Nicole Olivas Leiva. I use she, her, ella pronouns, and I'm with Dev Northwest. At Dev Northwest, I oversee our asset preservation and recovery programs. I'm a HUD certified housing counselor and have seen hundreds of clients facing foreclosure. And in most cases, we were able to resolve that situation together. There's a lot of information out there about the end of the foreclosure moratorium and what steps you're supposed to take to avoid foreclosure. It's really complex and it can feel overwhelming, but we want you to know that you do have options. Today, our goal is to share some key information and make sure you know the most important steps to take if you're worried about foreclosure. We want you to be empowered with information, so please ask questions. Let us know if there's anything you'd like us to dive deeper into, and please share these videos with anyone else you know who could use this information.
Thank you so much, Nicole. So my first question for you, Nicole, the biggest question is, if someone can't pay their mortgage, what should they do to avoid foreclosure?
Yeah, great question. If you can't pay your mortgage or you're worried about missing a mortgage payment, there are two things you should do right away. Number one is call your mortgage servicer. If you engage with your servicer's contact attempts, which means if you answer or return their calls or respond to any mail or email you get from them, you'll enter a grace period, which will give you more time to figure out what other steps you should take. And the second is to contact a HUD-approved housing counselor. Housing counselors are trained to provide free expert assistance to help you avoid foreclosure. Every situation is different, but housing counselors will work with you to figure out the right steps for you and for your mortgage.
Okay, I see. Can you explain what a mortgage servicer is and what the difference is between a servicer and a lender?
Of course. So a servicer is not the same as a lender. Your mortgage servicer is the company that sends you your mortgage statements, manages your loan, and processes your payments. They might not be the same company that originally gave you your loan. If you're behind on your payments, you might receive letters in the mail or phone calls from your servicer. Even if you haven't, you should contact them right away to slow down the foreclosure process while you learn about the different protections and options available to you.
Okay, I see. So how can people find out who their mortgage servicer is and find their phone number?
Great question. To find out who your servicer is, you can check your monthly mortgage statement or the payment coupon book that you got from your lender. And if you can't find the statement or the coupon book, you can ask a housing counselor for help. You can also connect with MERS, a private company that maintains information about mortgage loans and servicers. You can call the MERS Servicer Identification System toll-free at 888-679-6377 or visit their website at mersinc.org or mersinc.org.
Got it. Okay. So what happens once you find your mortgage servicer, get their phone number and give them a call? What kind of steps take place?
Yeah, so when you call your mortgage servicer, you should be prepared to explain a few things. So why you're unable to make your payments, whether the situation is temporary or permanent, details about your income, expenses, and other assets like any cash you might have in the bank. And if you're a service member, if you've received permanent change of station orders. Your servicer might ask you to complete a mortgage assistance or loss mitigation application. After your servicer reviews the completed application, they will let you know what loss mitigation options, if any, are available to you.
Okay, I see. Can you kind of explain what loss mitigation is? I'm not quite sure.
Of course, loss mitigation is what the mortgage servicing industry calls the steps that mortgage servicers take to work with borrowers or homeowners to avoid foreclosure. And these include the options that will allow you to stay in your home.
Okay, great. Okay. So we know how to find our mortgage servicer and what to expect when we call them. Can you tell us about housing counselors? Do people really need to call them, or can they just get information on housing counselor websites?
Yes, HUD-approved housing counselors are an excellent resource for anyone behind on their mortgage payments or worried about foreclosure. It can be really overwhelming to try and work through all the processes and paperwork that come with mortgages and repayment plans on your own. But HUD certified housing counselors are there to help you navigate mortgage and foreclosure issues. HUD stands for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's a government agency that helps people get and maintain affordable housing. They certify housing counselors all over the country to provide foreclosure prevention counseling free of charge. They'll help you to assess your financial situation, make sure you understand the loss mitigation options your servicer offers, and which options would be best for you. And they'll help you make a plan to get the help you need. They can also help you talk to your mortgage servicer and guide you through any of their programs and paperwork. And HUD-approved housing counselors can also help you with budgeting, credit card debt, or other financial situations that may be making it hard to make your mortgage payment, but there might be a low fee for this. There are a couple different ways to find a HUD-approved housing counselor. One is to visit the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau's website, or the CFPB's website, and you can use the Find a Counselor tool to get a list of HUD-approved housing counseling agencies in your area. Their website is www.consumerfinance.gov, and you can go to /find a housing counselor. You can also call the CFPB at 855-411-CFPB or 2372, and they can get you connected to a HUD-approved housing counselor over the phone. If someone is claiming to be a housing counselor but is asking you for payment, you should stop working with them and visit the CFPB website or give them a call to find a HUD-approved housing counselor.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all that information. I was hoping you could walk me through what happens when you call a housing counselor next.
Yeah, so if you're calling because you're having trouble paying your mortgage, the housing counselor will ask you for some information about your mortgage loan, like how much you owe, the date of your last payment, and you can generally find this information on your most recent mortgage statement. They may also ask you for information about your pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, and other bills you pay each month. The counselor is asking for this information to understand your financial situation and get a picture of how much you can afford for a monthly mortgage payment. If you're having trouble paying your mortgage, a HUD-approved housing counselor cannot promise that you will get to keep your home, but they will look at your options and help you make a decision that's right for you. If you're facing imminent foreclosure or you have been served with legal papers, you might also need to consult an attorney, but a housing counselor can help you figure that out.
Can you tell me a little bit more or about some of the loss mitigation options that housing counselors and maybe mortgage servicers can help with?
Of course. So your mortgage servicer might be able to provide options like getting a forbearance, working out a repayment plan, refinancing your mortgage, getting a loan modification, short selling your home, or giving your home back to the bank through a deed in lieu of foreclosure process. It's important to note that these options depend on many factors like the amount of your past due balance, your income, monthly expenses, and whether or not you've had previous mortgage assistance. None of these options are guaranteed, but a housing counselor will work with you to see what you might be eligible for.
Okay, let's dig a little deeper into loss mitigation options, starting with forbearance. Can you kind of talk about what actually is forbearance?
Yeah, most homeowners can temporarily pause or reduce their monthly mortgage payments if they're struggling financially. A forbearance is when your mortgage servicer or lender allows you to pause or reduce your monthly mortgage payments for a limited time while you build back your finances. For most loans, no additional fees, penalties, or additional interest beyond the scheduled amounts are added to your account, and you do not need to submit additional documentation to qualify. You can simply tell your servicer that you have a pandemic-related financial hardship to qualify for a forbearance. It's really important to note that forbearance does not mean your payments are forgiven or erased. You are still obligated to repay any missed payments, which in most cases can be repaid over time or when you refinance or sell your home. Before the end of a forbearance, your servicer will contact you about the missed payments and how to repay those.
Okay. So how can I request forbearance then?
So to request a mortgage forbearance, you'll need to reach out to your mortgage servicer, the company that sends you those monthly mortgage payments or statements. You can call them if you're already behind, or if they're calling you, you can pick up the phone. You can also check your servicer's website. Many times they have information online about forbearance and even can provide options for doing that online, applying for that forbearance. Just make sure that you have your account number handy. Once you're in touch with your servicer, there's a few questions that you might want to ask just to make sure you're getting all the information when you're asking about a forbearance. And some of those questions are, what options are available to me to help me reduce or temporarily suspend my payments? Can I access forbearance, loan modification, or other mortgage relief options? When will you waive late fees on my mortgage account? What should I do at the end of my forbearance? When should I contact or expect to hear from my servicer before my forbearance ends? Will you charge interest on my unpaid mortgage payments during forbearance? What are my payment options when forbearance ends? And what are my rights if you don't grant me a forbearance and I disagree with your decision?
Okay. So what happens when you are ready to exit forbearance and start making those payments again?
If you're worried about losing your home, we recommend getting in touch with a housing counselor to make a plan before you exit forbearance. They can help you figure out your best options for starting to remake payments and guide you through paperwork and process of working with your servicer. Remember, help is free. You don't have to pay anyone to help you avoid foreclosure.
Got it. Okay. So what are some of the repayment options available to borrowers exiting forbearance?
Yeah, so there are several different repayment options. I'll go over a few of those. One is a repayment plan, and that might be right for you if you can afford to pay more than your regular monthly mortgage payment. Under a repayment plan, a portion of the past due balance will just be added to each month, your payment each month. Another option is a deferral or partial claim. And that might be right for you if you can resume your regular monthly mortgage payments, but you cannot afford the increase. In this situation, your payments will either be moved to the back end of your loan or put into a subordinate lien, which basically means the debt from those missed payments will become lower rank or priority than your mortgage debt. You might choose a modification if you're no longer able to afford the regular monthly mortgage payments, the scheduled monthly mortgage payments. Under a modification, your payment can be reduced to an affordable amount and your missed payments can be added to the amount you owe. Your monthly payments could also be lower, but it could take you longer to pay off the mortgage. And then lastly, reinstatement or a lump sum payment might be right for you if you want to pay back all of the missed payments at once, and you of course have the financial ability to do that. It's important to know that for most mortgage loans, servicers cannot require you to make a lump sum payment. So if they only tell you about the lump sum repayment or reinstatement option, make sure to ask about other options that you can choose from.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned that when you call your mortgage servicer, they might ask you to complete a mortgage assistance application. So to make sure I got it right, the mortgage assistance application is what the servicer needs to figure out what loss mitigation options are available for each borrower. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's right. In order to figure out the best options available to you and to make a plan for your mortgage, you'll need to submit a complete loss mitigation application along with some specific supporting documents to your mortgage servicer. After you submit your completed application, your mortgage servicer will let you know what options are available to you after about 30 days. You can find an application on your mortgage servicer's website, or you can work with a housing counselor to complete the form. All the sections of the form will need to be filled out completely, and it will need to be dated and signed by all borrowers. Your mortgage servicer will also need to see your recent month's proof of income, all income, 2 months most recent bank statements for all your accounts, and an IRS 4506C form. In some cases, your servicer might also request tax returns and/or a hardship letter describing your situation. If any of the required documents are missing, your mortgage servicer will give you additional time to gather everything. But if too much time passes between before you get everything in, you might need to update some of the original documentation that you submitted, like bank statements or proof of income. And once your servicer receives a completed application with all supporting documentation, they will let you know in writing that they received it and confirm it's complete. And after that, they'll have 30 days to complete their review, and they'll inform you in writing of their decision. If you're not approved for loss mitigation options, they'll let you know why they made that decision, and they'll give you an opportunity to appeal.
Got it. Okay. So it sounds like the best option might be to work with the housing counselor to complete the application, just to make sure all the required documents are there and everything is submitted correctly.
Yes, absolutely. That's right.
And just to do a quick recap, I think the key things to know are: one, there are a lot of loss mitigation options available for people who are behind on their mortgage payments. Two, to find out which options are best for you, you should get in touch with your mortgage servicer right away. And three, you should also get in touch with the housing counselor for free. Individualized assistance, especially if you need help finding your mortgage servicer, is available. Thank you so much, Nicole. You have covered a lot today.